In Matthew 16, there's a scene where Jesus talks about the leaven of the Pharisees. And I'll just read it for you, and then we'll move into the message. And the disciples came to the other side and forgot to take the bread. And Jesus said unto them, Take heed and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And they reasoned among themselves, saying, We took no bread. And Jesus, perceiving it, said, O ye of little faith, why you reason among yourselves that you have no bread? Don't you understand that? Don't you remember that we had the 5 loaves that fed the 5,000, and how many baskets you took up? Neither the 7 loaves or the 4,000, and how many baskets you took up? How is it that you do not perceive that I spoke not to you concerning bread, but beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees? And then understood that they bade them not to beware of the leaven of the bread, but the teaching of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And basically if you were to apply this to our culture, Jesus was seeing that the Jewish culture was invaded by contrary ideologies. So if you were to apply it to us today, then who are the Pharisees of our age? So let's go to the next slide here. These are basically the influencers of our society. Basically all the sources where we get our opinions and our points of views. And, there's a lot of things going on there that hit us all day long. And they all seem to work together lately in a concentrated effort to confuse us and to take us away from morality. Well, actually, I wouldn't even, all of those seem to be working together. Even churches, some churches with weak ideology are just watering down the message and taking us and filling us with the toxic leaven of our society. We'll go to the next slide. So what is the leaven of the Pharisees, the modern Pharisees? Okay, it's basically all of the things that are against what we believe. There's anti-Christian ideas, anti-morality, anti-culture, anti-family. Science is supreme over spiritual things. I mean, we're led to believe that science is always true, but that's not. I mean, mathematics is always true, but, there's all sorts of psychology is not always true. You know what I mean? All sorts of science is being used against us to confuse us under that sort of that infallibility of science. What else we got on there? Idolization of material things. When I come back, I just see how much material things are involved in people's lives and how much people have and how much they're still buying and all these sorts of things. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't be doing the same, but it's just I'm in a different situation, right? Where we get by with what's good enough. And I tell you something, people are happier that way. They really are. I know that doesn't seem right, but I've been in the third world for 17 years. Generally, people are happier with not being concerned about showing off to the neighbors and having the next best thing. So, anyways, we're forced to consume this every day. You can't watch a TV show without 100 commercials pushing you to do something different. So we'll go to the next slide. So now I'm going to speak from Matthew 6. This whole thing is going to be basically from Matthew 6. I'm going to do the whole chapter, but we're not going to read the whole chapter because I don't got the time. But there is one piece here that kind of sets it up where Jesus is talking about the lamp of the body and the eye. And when the lamp is clouded, when the leaven comes in and clouds your vision, then the darkness starts to fill your body, right? And the more and more clouded it is, the more the darkness builds up inside of you. And what this is talking about is our perception and our ability to see and perceive and to judge and to make decisions. And the Greeks have a word for that. Like we have the word perception, but the Greeks have the word nous, which is a weird-sounding word. But it includes, well, let's go to the next slide here. The nous. This is not only just our vision, it's 5 senses plus spiritual perception plus wisdom and judgment and decision-making. All those things are combined into the word nous, right? And when our nous is clouded, when I don't know, there's a better word than clouded, polluted. When we have pollution in the nous, then we become dark. And then that begins to affect the next slide here. Epithemia. See, I'm going to give you a little Greek lesson today. We're going to learn 3 Greek words, okay? Epithemia, you probably never use them again, but they work really well. The Greeks have some really great words. They really do. And so this one here, this one you're all going to understand. This is appetite or desire, right? This is what you want, right? Whatever it is, good or bad, this is your desire. And God has given us appetites. We naturally have appetites. We have appetites for nutrition, for things that prolong our life, and we have appetites for God. And God designed us to crave God, right? That's in our natural position in a sin-free world. We would crave to be with Him, to be close to Him, right? That's our natural appetites. But since sin has come into the world, now there's flesh-based appetites as well, and this is what we have to deal with. And these appetites are, well, you can predict what they are, lust and greed and materialism and an addiction. I'll tell you something about addiction. I had a friend who was addicted to drinking brake fluid, right? Oh, you're looking at me weird. And I said to him, an addiction like that's going to kill you, man. And he said, I can stop anytime. It's a joke, brake fluid. Oh, you guys. Man, I got to set that up better. But he could stop really well. Okay, the next word, thymos. Thymos, this is the incensive power. You've heard people have been incensed to do things, right? This is the force that takes you from what you want to the action to get that thing, or causes you to do something, right? And this is, obviously where the trouble comes in. I mean, people are going to check for counseling because of thymos, because they got to, they're doing stuff that's getting them into trouble or whatever, It's they've gone to that point where the point of no return, where now, that force is acting upon them. And, naturally that force should be driving us to something good. Okay, so this is the point of no return. This is wrong passion results in destruction and death, right? And godly passion brings life and service and kingdom building, right? And wherever Christianity goes, wherever Christianity spreads, and Chuck mentioned this when we were up in the village, wherever Christianity goes, life flourishes. Education comes, health comes, the medicine comes. Everything kind of shows up. Everything that facilitates life comes through godliness. And then, of course, the opposite happens. So I've got this little diagram of how it works. So you got the nous. This is what you're looking at. This is what you're putting before you, or this is what's coming at you, or hitting you in the ears. I mean, you can't get away from it in this society, right? Whatever. I mean, we're bombarded. But the nous affects the epithemia, which is our desire, right? And that creates the thymos, the action, the trouble, or whatever, depending how it goes. And then it kind of speeds up. It kind of comes around again, because when it gets back to the nous, then you're into the lies you're telling yourself. Now you're clouding your own vision, right? You're starting to lie to yourself, and you go to the epithemia, and you get into making idols of these things that you have an appetite for, and it just keeps revolving around and around. But if you fix any of these spots, they begin to fix each other too. They go backwards and they fix. And when you fix the thymos, the nous gets helped. Then let's move to the next slide. So now, back to Matthew 6. I know I was going to talk about Matthew 6. Here we go. So Matthew 6 is built into, well, it's set up in 5 sections. There's 5 different areas in there. And this is right in the middle of where Jesus is basically telling people how to be, right? How Christians should be. This is love your neighbor. This is the Beatitudes. And turn the other cheek. All of that stuff's in there dealing with offense and that sort of stuff. And in Matthew 6, has got this nice little section in there that kind of fits the medicine and the cure for these 3 Greek words. So what slide are we on here? Number 11. Okay, we can go to the next slide here. So Matthew 6, verse 1, it starts out, and you know what? I want you guys to follow along, or to look at this on your own later. I'm not going to give you all the verses because it's really long, and I just want to bounce over it. So you guys are giving you homework, sorry, but I want you guys to read that with this in mind. But it starts out with Matthew 6. It begins with attitude. You know, check your attitude, check your motives. Very first thing you need to do, get real, right? Don't show off your charity. The things you do to impress men and to impress people are just going to steal your heavenly reward. And that comes back later in this, the heavenly reward. We'll go to the next slide, Matthew 6, 5-15. Okay, now we're working with the nous. And this is the medicine. This is the medicine for the nous. Is focus on God, right? Get alone with God. It teaches you how to pray. This is the section where the Lord's Prayer is in there. We get that whole thing. And in the Lord's Prayer, there's worship, and there's God's Word, and forgiveness. And forgiveness is super important in this because this opens the channel to God. This opens it back up. I mean, if you're praying without forgiveness, you're working against yourself. So this is the medicine for the nous. This opens up the lamp of the body, that fills the body with light, and this begins the cycle. 14. Matthew 6:16, epithemia. Okay, now, this is the cure for the appetite, for the desire. And this is fasting. Mostly this is fasting. This is delayed gratification. And I know you guys are working on that now with Lent. And I spent the year researching fasting. As you can tell, I look a little different than I did last year. I did my research. And I tell you something, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about how delayed gratification gives you power over your own flesh, right? And everybody can fast, right? Everybody's got different desires and different attitudes, but everybody eats, right? Fasting is the universal way for you to get control over your desires. It strengthens your spirit. It gives your spirit control. And once you got control, that is essential to witness anyways. You want to be a kingdom builder and you can't control your own passions, you're not going to have any power as a witness. And delayed gratification. They've done tests with students or with kids. They gave them the test where you can have a marshmallow now and you can just eat it, or if you wait, I'll give you 2, right? And they leave the room, and the kids that would wait to get the 2 marshmallows actually end up being way more successful in life. It's a predictor of life success in every area, right? If you can resist the flesh, you got a leg up. Okay, so we cured the epithemia. Now we go to 15, thymos. Now this one actually is probably, to me, the most surprising, and it's really important. This is talking about investing in the kingdom, right? So in Matthew 6:19, talk about do not lay up your treasures on the earth, but invest in heaven, right? And this is investing in the kingdom. And what I read into that, right, is ministry. How else are we investing in the kingdom rather than ministering and representing God? So that's how we build up our treasures in heaven. But the thing is, when you minister, you are transformed. Ministry transforms you faster than anything I know. It gives you a seriousness and an urgency to connect with God. And I know there's times in my life where I really, really needed God to react. And I tell you, when you're in that situation, you're paying attention to what you're looking at, you're paying attention to what you're doing, your appetites. You don't want anything getting in the way, right? When you're praying in a serious situation, when you're ministering, you have no fleshly desires at that point. It cleans you up. It just changes your body, and it revitalizes you totally in a spiritual path. We pray before the service, and you're just kind of standing around, and then you pray, right? And then your motor's running, right? And then that's the way it works. And I got to tell you guys, short-term missions is a way to get your motor running, spiritual things, and to clean up the issues in your life and avoid the stuff that's coming at us, because we're all getting it all the time, right? Okay, we go to the last slide here. The very last section of Matthew is attitude and faith. It begins with attitude, it ends with attitude, but this time it's like, leave it to God and get real, right? Just leave it to God, and He's going to work on the things that you can't do. Now, God lets you choose the things you want to do, right? And He directs you and things like that. So, as Chuck said, I was led to be in Thailand. God spoke to my spirit and said that whatever I needed, if I was to do this thing, He gave me this. He said, if you were to do this thing, whatever you needed would be ready for you, or would be supplied as you needed it. So I was given the choice to do what I did, and the guarantee that God's going to take care of the things that I'm not capable of, right? Like organizing funds and stuff like that, and things that go on this side, I'm way over there, so God takes care of that stuff. So anyways, Matthew, in that part of Matthew, this is talking about just stepping into the rest of God. And I've really been working this year on just stepping into that and just having a good attitude and just having fun. And I think it's really making a difference. So in conclusion, the strategy, the medicine, the cure for the leaven of the Pharisees is you examine your motives, get yourself alone with God, worship, pray, focus on the Word, clear the lamp of the body, forget yourself. Oh, I didn't got fasting in there. Do I got it on there? Fast to strengthen your body. I think everybody should fast all the time. Like, not continually. But I think, it should be at least part of every month you should do. And, there's different kinds of fasting. There's fasting, just so you're only going to eat 2 meals a day, or you're only going to eat in the afternoon, or whatever you want to do, just force yourself to deal with what's good enough, right? Because really, 2 meals a day is good enough. You'd be amazed. Okay, and forget yourself, serve others, relax, and be at peace. And that's my tips for you guys today to become kingdom builders, the Matthew 6 cure. So have a look at that. Okay, so now we're going to jump onto this. This is hot off the presses. You guys raised some money, like last week or a couple weeks ago, for the mission across the border in Burma. So here it is. They're already building. They're putting up a residence for the teachers, and they're going to do something for the kids too. There's going to kids' residence too. So you guys blessed them over their expectations, and they're very excited. So they're sending pictures all the time. They're very happy with what has happened, and so we'll keep on top of that for you guys, and we'll show you what else they come up with to do with that, because they actually have more than they need, which, thank God, that is awesome. So, yeah, just go through the pics here. That's the cement mixer, and that's the cement truck. That's the excavator, I guess. Oh, no, he's finishing the concrete, but that's just foundations, and they'll just stick a pole in there and put up the building. And that's all the pictures I got of that. But anyways, that's my message for today, guys.